A very good afternoon to all the lovers of literature present here. Welcome to yet another session of An Author's Afternoon, an initiative of Prabha Khaitan Foundation. When everything had taken a turn for the worse, the Foundation's constant initiatives made it possible for patrons to have a rendezvous with authors. The Foundation made the sessions virtual for patrons to have their daily dose of literature. And now, when things are looking up, the Foundation is also hosting physical sessions with all safety measures. It is my honor and privilege to welcome the guest of author today, Mr. Abhay Kumar. Abhay Kumar is an Indian poet, diplomat, and India's 21st ambassador to Madagascar and ambassador to Comoros. He has served in different diplomatic capacities earlier in Russia, Nepal, and Brazil. His published collections of poetry include The Seduction of Delhi, The Eight-Eyed Lord of Kathmandu, The Prophecy of Brasilia, The Alphabets of Latin America, among others, while his edited books are Capitals, 100 Great Indian Poems, 100 More Great Indian Poems, New Brazilian Poems, the Bloomsbury Anthology of Great Indian Poems, the Bloomsbury Book of Great Indian Love Poems, among others. He recorded his poems at the Library of Congress. His writings cover poetry, art, memoir, global democracy, and digital diplomacy. His Earth Anthem has been translated into over 50 languages and was played at the United Nations to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Earth Day. He also wrote an anthem for SAARC, spurring search for an official SARC anthem. He wrote a moon anthem to celebrate the success of India's moon mission Chandrayaan-2. He has penned a Mars anthem to inspire the younger generation to explore our neighboring red planet. He has also penned a Venus anthem. He received the SARC Literary Award for his contribution to contemporary South Asian poetry and was nominated for the Pushcart Prize 2013. He has also been honored with Asia Pacific Excellence Award in 2014. His The Seduction of Delhi was shortlisted for Muse India Satish Verma Young Writer Award 2015. To be in conversation with him, we have Ehsaas Women of Chennai, Ms. Vidya Gajpati Raju Singh. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the session.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Abhay, since we decided to drop the G, I'm calling you Abhay, and I hope that's okay. Now, it's incredible. You are in India's 21st ambassador to Madagascar. Wow, that's amazing, and at such a young age. I mean, I don't know whether we should reveal your age on the net like this, but you're only 41 years old. That's unbelievable. Speak to us about your journey in this diplomatic world, and the introduction said all the places that you've been to in your diplomatic career, and I mean it's a variety of places from Russia to Brazil to Nepal and now Madagascar. Tell us something about it.
It's such a joy to be among you. I mean, what a wonderful team you have, and I'm delighted talking to you this afternoon. I mean, my journey into I studied. I come from Nalanda in Bihar, actually, and from a place called Rajgir. So I used to see lots of people from different countries coming to visit Rajgir, Bodh Gaya and Nalanda. So that whole circuit. And then I found that there was a traveler. I mean, there were many travelers, but one of them, Huan Song, a Chinese monk who traveled all the way on foot, on horseback, and so on. And he came to Nalanda to study Buddhism. So I was fascinated. Yeah, I was fascinated by his story, and he was also a translator. So he took lots of Buddhist texts from India and then translated into Mandarin, and which became known as, the records on the Western regions. And many of the kings, much of our history, ancient history, we trace from his writings because we don't have other sources. So this was, his journey was fascinating for me. And so I thought that, I should join the foreign service, where you get to travel the whole world and truly live this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam ideal, which we so often talk about, that the whole world is a family. And this is a job which gives you the opportunity to serve not only India, but you also serve people all across the world, because it's both ways. Whichever country you serve in, you are serving the people of that country, and at the same time you are serving your own country. So this is something, which fascinated me, and I decided to join the Indian Foreign Service. But that decision happened much later. I studied geography at Delhi University, at Kirurimal College, and then at Jawaharlal Nehru University later, and then I joined the Foreign Service. So so it has been, since then. Then my first assignment was to serve in Moscow, and that was in 2005. I traveled to Russia and to learn Russian language, and I was studying at Moscow State University that time, and I had plenty of time with me to write a memoir, of my first 25 years. So, so my first book came out in 2007, and that book is a memoir of my own family, but also it's a memoir of how democracy, how education, how information technology has changed India and changed Indian dreams. So, so that was a book which came out. It's called River Valley to Silicon Valley, which tells the story of my grandfather and my family, and it's a bit also autobiography how I got into the civil services. So so that was the first book, and the inspiration came from this book, The Old Man and the Sea, by Ernest Hemingway, which I happened to read one day, and the most fascinating thing was the story, of course, the resilience of the old man, but also the size of that book. It was I think less than 100 pages, 90 pages, 90 plus pages, and I realized that you can tell such a riveting, such a wonderful story in so few pages. And so I thought that why can't I write a book like that? And so I wrote the memoir, and then Moscow poetry happened automatically. I mean, Moscow is so grand and magnificent, actually, and people are beautiful, So it's so poems automatically started coming out, and one after another. So I started writing a blog, and then those days I had no ambition to become a writer or a poet, have a career in writing. And so I just used to post those poems on my blog called Ideas and Universe, and lots of people liked those poems and commented on them. So I thought that I should put them as a collection. And so my first poetry collection, it's called Enigmatic Love, poems from fairy tale city of Moscow, and that came out in 2009. So and then more and more poems happened, and I started putting them as collections, and then it became a habit. And it's so wherever I go now, I end up doing a book. So that's how you see, when I came back from Russia to India in 2010, I did this book called The Seduction of Delhi, which is illustrated by an Italian artist called Tarsito, and it has poems about different places and people in Delhi, and is also illustrated by the paintings by this Italian artist. So this was about Delhi. Then the Eight-Eyed Lord of Kathmandu happened when I was in Nepal. It's a portrait of Nepal and its people and its monuments. And after Nepal, I went to Brazil, and in Brazil, I got the opportunity to travel the whole Latin American continent. Wonderful. And this book came out last year called The Alphabets of Latin America, which is A to Z about the continent of Latin America. So it talks about different Machu Picchu, for example, or George Amado or Gabriela Mistral, and so on, and writers and poets and historical personalities and so on. And then I am, in Madagascar now after Brazil. So this is, in short, this is my journey.
Is this your first posting as an ambassador, or have you been ambassador before in any other place?
No, I'm still I'm still India's youngest ambassador. So this is of course my first ambassadorship. So you don't get to be ambassador at this age.
It's fascinating how you've been. How was it difficult adjusting living in these places as not just as an ambassador but as a younger diplomat? Did you have any issues there, or was it just you just slipped into the lifestyle there?
I think, I really enjoy this nomadic life, So in Moscow, I think I just love life, and that's it. So in Moscow, I started painting. So I am also, I'm also an artist, and I've done exhibitions in Paris and in, different places, Brasilia and New Delhi. So in Russia, I was fascinated by the art life in Russia. And my second memoir, which is called Colors of Soul, it's a memoir about the art life in St. Petersburg and how artists, lived there and how did they paint and how we painted together and so on. So this is it all happened. I mean, it's just the joy of learning new things. I haven't had, I have no regrets. I mean, I haven't had any difficulties anywhere actually. I mean, I consider whole planet as my home, and that's why I feel that I am at home everywhere.
That's so wonderful. Being a poet, Abhay, how did this happen? How did the poetry part? People do write novels, they write fiction, they write sometimes travelogues and various things, but poetry is a set apart. So how did the poetry come about? And what a variety of books of poems you publish. It's astounding.
So, I mean, poetry, when my father was a teacher and we had lots of books at home. So one of the books I remember reading early in my life when I was, I think, class 4 was Rashmi Rathi by Ramdhari Singh Dinkar. And his Rashmi Rathi, the third canto or Tritiya Sarg of Rashmi Rathi is so musically fascinating that once you read it, it never goes out of your head. So so I think I always had those lines in my mind, and I was fascinated by the sound of his words and the images he created. Rashmi Rathi is about Mahabharata. It is about Karn, so also I think diplomacy started from there because Tirthiya Sargi is also about Krishna going to the court of the Kaurava and asking for 5 villages. De do keval 5 gram, rakho apni dharti tamam, hum usi mein khushi se khayenge, parijan par asina uthayenge. Duryodhan wo bhi de na saka, ashish samaj ki le na saka, ulte hari ko bandhne chala, jo tha sadhya sadhne chala. So it's like the diplomacy and poetry both coming together at in Rashmi Rathi, and I think it in subconsciousness somewhere it was there.
But for you, it's not just poetry. There's so many aspects of writing that you've got into, I think, with your all about global diplomacy, digital diplomacy, art, not just your painting, but you wrote about art as well and your memoirs. It's an incredibly diverse range of subjects. And how do you manage your time between the diplomatic world and your creative side that you need time for?
Well, I found somewhere that, poetry and diplomacy are like, they're sisters, or, they have so many common aspects. For example, both as a poet and as a diplomat, you deal with words. So one thing poetry teaches you is to very carefully choose your words. So, and it's same for diplomacy. You cannot be a diplomat if you can't choose your words carefully.
Right. That's right.
So the first is dealing with. Then there is the ABCD. ABCD. A is for ambiguity. As Emily Dickinson says, "Tell it, but tell it slant." I think it's something which is very valid for both poets and diplomats. If you are a poet and you are saying things directly, then you are not a good poet. You have to use metaphors and similes and other figures of speech to say things. And in the same way, as a diplomat, you are never direct. You find a way to say things. So the second is brevity. How do you say things, more things in few words? And that's what both poetry and diplomacy does. Poetry is essential language. Poetry is not like a novel where you can write everything you want. It's you have to reduce it to the words which really matter. So both diplomacy has the same principle: say more in few words. Where not saying things, the words you have not said has more meaning. What you call reading between the lines. So poetry is poetry is basically reading between the lines. And then we have this also sensitivity, in the sense that both as a poet and diplomat, you have to be a sensible person to be a good poet or a diplomat, and so on. I can go on this, but these are some of the similarities. and I think it's also poetry also connects you with people at a deeper level. That's so right. It makes you a better diplomat. And diplomacy, as a diplomat, you get to travel the whole world. So it makes you a better poet, because then you are, able to see so many diverse situations and emotions and landscape which comes into your poetry. So they complement each other. I'll give you some examples.
I think we can tell your language when you're trying to explain diplomacy to poetry. We can see your language right then and there over there. Tell me, you'd done some editing as well. That's interesting. Editing of books. So do publishers come to you to edit books for them, or how did that work out?
Yeah. So this is the latest one. It's called the Bloomsbury Book of Great Indian Love Poems. It has love poems from 3,000 years of Indian poetry from more than 24 languages, translated into English, of course. Yes. So as the Valentine Day is coming, I think everybody should get this book.
I'm going to get that for sure.
So the publishers, see, I have been now I have 10 books with Bloomsbury India, and so it happens both ways, in the sense that for example, some anthologies I propose that I'm doing this anthology, would you like to publish it? And sometimes when sometimes they ask that, would you like to do this? So
you get both. So you get both sides.
Yeah. So for example, I did the anthology called 100 Great Indian Poems, which has been translated into over six languages, global languages. So then that was a very successful book. So then I did 100 more because people wanted to read more great Indian poets.
Yes.
And so that was successful. So Bloomsbury asked if I want to do a love poems thing.
Lovely. Human beings haven't changed that much in 3,000 years. We have the same emotions, the same feelings. We are the same. There's no difference.
There's no difference. That's why if you read poetry written 3,000 years ago, I mean,
yes.
Rig Veda, or if you read Kalidas, I have just translated Meghdut and Ritu Samhar, and you feel that it's been written yesterday. Because as human beings, our emotions are going to stay the same even after 10,000 years.
Absolutely.
It's not going to change.
I read a little poem written, which was translated from Egyptian hieroglyphics. And as I was reading it, I thought it was about a woman whose lover has left in the morning or something. And I was thinking, this is today's story. There's no difference.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
now,
yesterday. So fresh.
Absolutely. Abhay, tell us now about the poem for the Library of Congress. What is that? What was the significance of that? Were you there when you had recorded it? Were you there when it was played? Tell us briefly about that.
So it was in October 2018. I mean, that time I was in Brazil, and I went to the Library of Congress to record it. And it's a very popular program called The Poet and the Poem. And it's a program which is running since many years. I mean, even before I was born, actually. And so it was very significant to be invited there. For me, I mean, a great encouragement for me to be. I mean, I think I was the first Indian poet to be invited. So so it's just I mean, felt very good that somebody is taking note of your work. I mean, I guess, and then it's there on the it's on the website. I mean, you can listen to it. It's kind of a podcast, so one can go and listen to the whole interview.
Do you have to recite it, or did somebody else? You recited it?
No, I mean, it's like there's a very well-known poet. She's now also the poet laureate of Maryland, Grace Cavalieri. So she runs this program, and so it was an interview with her. And then during the interview, you recite your poems. It's basically, and then she asks you questions like as we are doing.
Tell us, Abhay, about your Earth Anthem. I mean, I was fascinated with these things that you've done with this Library of Congress, Earth Anthem, and then there's Moon and Mars poems. I mean, it's amazing, all of those. Tell us first about Earth Anthem.
So Earth Anthem, I wrote so Earth Anthem I wrote in 2008 in St. Petersburg, and it's it comes from my deep belief that in Vasudha Kutumbakam, and in a planet being our home, so and also looking at our own planet from outside, so this anthem, for example, initially I wrote it as a poem which became a song afterwards when it was put to music. So the words are like our cosmic oasis, cosmic blue pearl. I mean, each word counts here, our cosmic oasis. I mean, Earth, look at the whole solar system or the nearby stars and constellations. So Earth is like, an oasis in a cosmic desert, because Mars or Venus, they don't have life. So, and Earth is like a paradise. It's when you go in a desert and you find a little water and some plants, and you rest there. So our Earth is like that. It's a cosmic oasis, and so these cosmic oasis, cosmic blue pearl, the most beautiful planet in the universe. All the continents and all the oceans, united we stand as flora and fauna.
So true.
United we stand as a species of one Earth. diverse cultures, beliefs, and ways. We are humans. Earth is our home. All the people and all the nations, one for all and all for one. United we unfurl the blue marble flag. So it's an anthem which is not only about human beings, but also all the species who share this planet, all the earthlings whom we call earthlings, who share this planet with us. About 8 million species we know as of now who share, this earth with us. And life is interdependent. So, as our consciousness grows, as our consciousness rises, it becomes from village consciousness to planetary consciousness, from national consciousness to cosmic consciousness. It's just a difference in thinking and how we look at the world. So this anthem, Earth Anthem, was to make us realize that, we are very small, part in the whole universe. And paradise we talk about is right here in front of us. If you look around, and it's important to take care of this paradise. It's important to stand united, not only as human beings, but also as all the species as earthling, or as all the species of this planet, as oceans or as continents. So this was the message, and it's now, it has traveled a long distance. It's been put to, it was played by the National Orchestra of Brasilia, and in Amsterdam, it was the Conservatory of Amsterdam which played it. And it's used by, many schools across the globe to celebrate Earth Day or the World Environment Day.
Completely amazing. It was played for the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. What a proud moment for you and for our country. It's something extraordinary what you have achieved in this.
I was really delighted. A great moment. And that year also the BBC played it, and it was played widely across the world in different countries.
Right. That's right. Tell us. What about the 3 other poems, the famous ones for Moon, Mars, and Venus? Tell us, take us through that.
I have now completed, the whole solar system, and it was published on 21st of December, when the great conjunction between Jupiter and Saturn happened. And I have written anthems about Neptune and Uranus and Jupiter and Mars and Venus, so Moon and Sun. So I have completed this whole solar system now.
That's fantastic. Would you like to read? I think the most significant for us would be the Moon one, because it's linked to Chandrayaan. So would you like to read that for us or recite it?
Sure. It would be a pleasure. I'll have to just find it. Okay. So
I'm sorry, I sort of sprung that on you.
No, not at all. I'll find it, and then
okay. In the meanwhile, tell us about the SARC Literary Award that you received. That's another huge honor, because it's a global award.
Right, SARC Literary Award, that happened in 2013. So it was at the, SARC is a regional organization, and it's an organization of the South Asian countries.
Yes.
And it was in 2013 at the SARC Literature Festival that I was given that award, and it was to, for the contribution to the South Asian poetry and so on. So so it was also a very proud moment for me, and these are like little gestures of encouragement and support. We don't write poetry, of course, for for awards, but then if somebody if somebody pays you attention, then there's no problem with
More
that.
than attention, this is probably recognition in a public way for work that you have done. I think it's absolutely wonderful to be recognized.
Right. Correct. So this is so I'll read the Moon Anthem for you. I have found it.
Lovely. Thank you.
It's also been composed to music by Dr. L. Subramaniam and sung by Kavita Krishnamurti.
Okay.
Yes, Moon Anthem, and so it's a celestial diamond, primeval timepiece, cosmic lamppost, night's soft kiss, seducing oceans, occulting sun, silver goddess, lighting up the heaven. Mankind's great leap, ephemeral solace, a pit stop to explore the deep space, eternal companion, ever morphing face, sensual sentinel in tidal embrace, watching in silence earth rise and fall. Moon, 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 we chant on.
Beautiful.
That's the anthem.
Very, very evocative words. I think you can pretty much visualize this beautiful moon from the words that you're using. It's lovely, very, very evocative words. And
love this watching in silence, earth rise and fall.
You have, of course, so many more awards that have come your way through your books and all the work that you've been doing. It's amazing. And also, you were shortlisted for the Muse India Satish Verma Young Writers Award. That's also fantastic. And the Asia Pacific Excellence Award. I mean, there are just so many accolades that have come your way. It has to be.
Just being lucky, that's all.
So do you want to just briefly touch on what these awards mean to you? Other than
they are kind of recognition, but the real joy is in writing and in in dealing with words. I think there's no, in reading and in writing, I think I get my pleasure from reading and from writing, and then rest is kind of a byproduct, in the sense publishing or publicity or awards, and they are like secondary. They are not the primary source of joy for me. They are like additional, icing on the cake.
I love that. Tell me, I have a more sort of question away from this genre of poetry and diplomacy. What does Abhay Kumar do for relaxation? Do you exercise? Do you play a sport? What do you travel? What do you do?
Like, I'm a big yoga, enthusiast into yoga. I do yoga like every day. So,
Okay.
I start, like, I run for like half an hour, then I do yoga. Yoga is like Surya Namaskar for me, and then I found few years ago that I'm quite flexible, so and I learned it in Nepal, and then I could do like difficult asanas like Padma Mayurasana or full camel pose like Purna Ustasana.
Yes.
And Sirsasana and so on. So Bakasana and Dhanurasana and all. So then I have kept up with it, and I do it every morning. And like, I'm quite good at it, actually. I also have done some modeling for yoga magazines.
Love it. That's too good. Well, that's wonderful. Having lived in Brazil and South America, did you get into any trekking? Because I've been on the Machu Picchu Inca Trail trek and Patagonia trekking spaces.
Yes, yeah, we've been to like Machu Picchu, but we did the trek, just a little bit of trekking, from down.
Okay.
And then we have been to also to Chile, which is where in the desert, not Patagonia, but to Atacama.
Atacama Desert, yes.
So and then I have lived in Nepal, and so I did a lot of treks in Nepal. And before that, when I was at the National Academy of Administration in Missouri, we had like these treks for 10 days or 15 days, so we would go in the Himalayas. And so, I mean, trekking is something which I love. I mean, I love walking. I mean, anything. I mean, I am a big, these days, I mean, I love to look at stars, and I've been finding these constellations, here, and I'm so fascinated. I think soon I'm going to write about them.
So Abhay, now that all of this we've talked about, what next? What comes next for you, diplomacy-wise and your personal poetry journey?
So poetry journey continues. I mean, I am writing a poem called Monsoon, which is a long poem about which connects Madagascar with the Himalayas. And because many people don't know, monsoon originates near Madagascar in a place called Mascarene High, and then it travels all the way across the equator and goes to India and to whole Asia actually. And so it's a love poem. Someone in this place, island, is writing a love poem to someone who is in the Himalayas. So it's like I'm almost I've been reading a lot about monsoon. There's a book called Monsoon Feeling I've been reading, and then I've just finished a book called Changing Monsoon by Alexander Fretter. So this is my latest, work. I have a more poetry book called The Magic of Madagascar, which is going to come. It's a book of haiku on the flora and fauna of Madagascar and its landscape, illustrated by a very talented Malagasy artist. And it's going to come hopefully next year. This year, Bloomsbury is publishing my 2 translations. One is Meghdut, which will come in May this year. And another one is Ritu Samhar, which will come in October this year. So, poetry is my lifeline.
That's a lot on your plate.
Yesterday in diplomacy, in the world of diplomacy, yesterday I have just got my promotion to the next level, which is which is grade 3, or the joint secretary, what you call in the government of India. So that's a major promotion. After that, only 2 promotions are left. So it's also very heartening. So I'm kind of I have a balanced poetry and diplomacy life. I've been also working with a lot of. I think this is the first platform I'm sharing it. I'm working to create an institution of a poet laureate, for our planet. And as we have poet laureates for different, for example, there's a poet laureate at the Library of Congress. There's a poet laureate at the Oxford University and Harvard University, but we don't have a poet laureate for our planet, and who can speak about the climate change and biodiversity loss and the threats our planet faces. So I'm working, and I have received support from the poet laureates of United Kingdom and from the poet laureate of United States, and so on. All the major global poets have supported this idea. So this is one of my goals, that a poet laureate for the world.
Wishing you all the very, very best in both worlds, definitely. And it's been incredible talking to you, and this nice freewheeling chat I think we had was just perfect. It's been an enormous pleasure chatting with you, and I think I can say from all our sides that we're very, very proud of all that you've achieved in both worlds. And I won't stress the age again. I won't talk about the age again, the young age. So that's very wonderful. Thank you for sharing all this with us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for.
So can you all hear?
Abhay, I think I'm sorry, Nilisha, just to interrupt. Abhay, I think your video is not working.
My video is not working?
Yeah, it's static. Yeah, Now it is okay.
Okay, so I'll start with the question and answers. You can all share your questions in the question and answer tab on the bottom right of the screen. We have 2 questions to start with. The first one is from Vishaka Banerjee. She would like to ask, could you please recite your favorite lines from a poem very close to your heart?
Okay, so this is my first poem. It's called Soul Song, and it's like, I was always here as blowing
Sorry
wind.
to interrupt, but your video has paused again.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah, there
Is
is
it?
slight movement,
Yeah.
but I think there's a lag. But we can hear you clearly, so I think you
Okay.
can continue. Yeah.
I was always here as the blowing wind or falling leaves, as the shining sun or flowing streams, at chirping birds or blooming buds, as the blue sky or the empty space. I was never born. I didn't die.
Wow.
This is it.
Lovely.
This is Soul Song. And one more poem. I think I must read this for her.
Sure.
It's called, Gabriela Mistral. It's about a Latin American, first Nobel laureate from Latin America, a woman. And it's a poem I have written about her, but it is inspired from a poem she wrote called her poem is called Dame la mano, means give me your hand in Spanish, And the poem I wrote is, read me your poem and we shall float freely across the cosmos like a comet. Read me your poem and I will be blessed like a butterfly drunk on nectar. We shall drink the same verse from the fountain of the universe, like 2 hummingbirds in mid-air, like 2 hummingbirds, nothing more. You are swift wind, and I am a fearless horse, and we shall leap together to the moon, because we are 2 bodies, but 1 soul, and nothing more. That's all.
Beautiful. It was indeed beautiful. We have the next question from Gurleen Kaur. She says, good evening, sir. If you could please tell us your take on how poetry plays an exceptional role in bringing about a revolution in the current times.
Well, I mean, poetry has, changes us at a deeper level. It affects our consciousness, and it also works at subconscious level. So, I mean, poetry is, as Joseph Brodsky said, poetry is the only medium, I mean, which works at the same time at the 3 modes of cognition, and that is intuition, and also this revelation, and knowledge. So I mean, this is something affects by intuition something, through poetry. It reveals you the relationship between words which have not been revealed before. So what is revolution? Revolution is something happens when the people's consciousness changes, and revolution here means the millions revolutions are happening at this very moment. For example, what happened when I read Ramdhari Singh Dinkar's Rashmilati when I was in class 4. It was a revolution, but at a personal level, which completely changed me. And, but I was not aware of it for so many years. But I mean, a subconscious level, I was, I think, affected by reading Ramtari Singh Dinkar's work. So that is one way to look at it. But then you also have these revolutionary poets, who write about the revolutionary. They write revolutionary songs. They write these, words which give strength to people who are deprived, who are, who want to change the system. And there is, that kind of poetry also. And there are many poets who have, written about our own independence movement, and also about various movements which, happened in India and across the world. For example, I was reading, I posted a quote a few days ago of the Cuban poet, Jose Marti, and he said that a grain of poetry is enough to season a century, a whole century. So look at this. I mean, a grain of poetry. I mean, poetry as a kind of seasoning, seasoning of the salad or seasoning of your food. I mean, look at these connections. And he was a revolutionary poet. Jose Marti was a revolutionary poet. So when we talk about revolutions, we should look not only as kind of, the big, what we call the big revolutions, but revolutions happening right now, happening at the subconscious level, which we don't know. When we meet people, for example, even today, I mean, when I am with all of you, so we take a little bit and we give a little bit, and tomorrow we are not the same person. It's a river flowing, and tomorrow you will be a different person. You won't know it, because there's an illusion within us that, we are the same persons when we were born till we die. It's not true. We change, and we change every day. So that's also a revolution happening. So I think poetry has a great role to play in all kind of revolutions. I hope I've answered your question, Gurleen.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, the one I have written in the chat box.
Okay. We have one more question. What is the word that describes you as a diplomat and as a poet? Sorry, should I repeat? Was there disturbance?
What is a word? Sorry, what is it?
What is the one word that describes you as a diplomat and as a poet?
Poet diplomat. I mean, one word that describes me as a poet and a diplomat. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult question, but I mean, poet diplomat is now one word. I mean, for so many of them, like Pablo Neruda or Octavio Paz or George Seferis, Saint John Perse, all very well-known poet diplomats who were, who, for example, Octavio Paz was Mexico's ambassador to India. Pablo Neruda was Chile's ambassador to Paris, to France. And George Seferis, the Greek poet, was Greece ambassador to UK. So I mean, it's you can, and I have already shared earlier, the connections between poetry and diplomacy. So I mean, I prefer to call poet diplomat. Some people just reverse it, diplomat, poet. That's different. Yeah, I think.
The next question is from Supriya Newar. Reflections play a very important role in writing poetry, and you can reflect only after a certain zooming out. Does poetry keep you too involved with the past, therefore?
Not really. I mean, poetry is about now. I mean, it's not about the past. It's about this moment, and I mean, when you write a poem, you you are writing it in this moment, and when you look at a star, or you look at a beautiful person, or a landscape, or you feel rain, it's now. But then when you write a poem, you go back, go back to, I mean, you keep going, but it's all sort of, because we all live in this moment, isn't it? I mean, everything, I mean, this is the moment where the future is turning into past, and present is also passing by. So this is the moment. All we have is this moment. So I mean, poetry sort of helps you to pay attention to this very moment, to make you feel much more aware, much more attentive. So yeah, I guess that way.
Okay, we have an anonymous question, a question from an anonymous attendee. How do you maintain a balance between your diplomatic career and your literary works?
Yeah, this one I get, this question comes often, to me. So it's see, I mean, diplomacy is a profession for me, and poetry is vocation for me. So we all find time for things we love, don't we? So if you like a serial, if you like to watch a serial, or you always find time for that. And so for me, I mean, I always find time for poetry, and diplomacy, gives you this freedom to pay attention in shorter durations. For example, you are busy with work, but then you get a break, and during that break, there's sufficient time to write a line, or write one stanza or a poem maybe. But you cannot write a novel, in that time. It's not that much time that you can write a novel. So I think poetry perfectly suits the profession of diplomacy, where you have these small little time intervals, and you use that to do the thing you love. So as I have said earlier, that for me, poetry complements diplomacy, and diplomacy complements poetry, because my poetry is informed by diplomacy, and my diplomacy is informed by poetry. So so I could not write this book, for example, The Alphabets of Latin America, if I was not a diplomat, because I won't be traveling the whole continent. Neither I would be able to write so many other books which I have done. So in the same way, as I was, I forgot to mention, but in Kathmandu, when I was posted in Nepal, I used to do this program called Poemandu, which was a monthly literary program. And in Brasilia, I used to do Chá com Letras, which is tea with letters. And here in Madagascar, we do it Lalitana, which is La Literature de Tananarivo, which means the literature of Antananarivo. So all these programs, they help me to connect with people, and that helps you with diplomacy, because if you know people, you become a better diplomat, because diplomacy is all about making these connections. And poetry connects me at a deeper level with people. So I still am friends with people in Nepal, or in Russia, or in Brazil, because they take me as, they find me completely harmless, But if you are a strict diplomat without any, it's easy to, because your relations are very professional and, transactional. So there are no deeper level connections. So I think that, poetry makes me a better diplomat, because I'm able to connect with people at a much deeper level and have friendship which lasts for decades and across continents. So it's they complement each other, and I think I mean also poetry takes away lots of stress from my work. So you know, all the work I do, I get stressed, and but then when I get back to poetry, it suddenly, you know, it's a different world, so everything vanishes, you know, and then so it helps me to stay sane.
Wow, that's very well answered.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Prem Kaku. Abhayji, how did your stay at JNU influence your poetry?
Well, I should read a poem about JNU for him or her, I don't know. So it's it's called JNU, you know, and JNU is a fascinating campus, you know. I mean, those of you who have been to JNU or studied at JNU are blessed, because, you know, I was at Harvard University and I found that JNU has a better campus any day. So so JNU is like huge, and it has natural, like it's on the Aravalli Hills, and it's unique. I mean, I have studied also at Moscow State University and George Washington University, but I mean, there's no comparison to JNU. I mean, I like JNU as it is, and it's amazingly beautiful campus. I haven't seen anything like that. So here is a poem for the gentle, I mean, person. I'm that heavenly abode of freedom, where idealism still flourishes at my dialectic dhavas, open past midnight, where peacocks dance under pouring monsoon rains, where khadi-clad damsels make love on the ancient Aravalli rocks, proclaiming the moon to be their only witness, where the fresh breeze of knowledge blows from far away lands, day and night, where the poorest of the poor dream with abandon of an equal world, free from oppression. Thank you.
Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So that was our last question.
Great. So we are done, I guess, and it has been such a pleasure to be with you.
Likewise. On behalf of Ehsaas Women of Kolkata, I thank you. I thank you, Mr. Abhay Kumar, our conversationalist, Ms. Vidya Gajapati Raju, for such an engaging and an exciting session. I would also like to thank Prabha Khaitan Foundation for constantly bringing up such interesting sessions, and also Shree Cement Limited and Taj Bengal. None but not the last, audience, for their never-ending support and for the amazing questions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Namaste from Madagascar.
From Chennai.
Thank you. What a pleasure.
Thank you.